Skeletor is the main nemesis of He-Man in Masters of the Universe, and in this second episode of my He-Man series, I'll be painting just that guy, Skeletor. I hope you'll enjoy it and will follow along. Please enjoy. When you take your painter's glasses on and look at this miniature, it seems like an interesting project with lots of different areas to paint in different colors. He has a sword on his back, a staff, and leather clothing, and of course skin and skull. But then you take a look at the box art and you quickly learn that he's pretty much only blue and purple. And that's what I'm going for in this video. But first I'm starting with the skull. I've primed the miniature in Grey Seer, and then I'm taking some Incubi Darkness and base coating the skull. I thinned it down with a roughly equal amount of water. And then just paint the entirety of the skull. And it doesn't matter if you hit the surrounding areas, we'll paint those over later anyways, or clean them up with some Grey Seer. With that base coat fully dried, I'm going in with a shade. I'm using Akhelian Green shade for this. And the same size brush. Just apply this all over and let it fully dry. Like so. With that shade dry, I'm then going in with some Kabalite Green and adding a layer. I'm using a size 00 brush for this. And I'm essentially painting the entire skull again, but I'm avoiding all the recesses, such as the eye sockets for example. Following that, I'm taking my small dry brush from the army painter and adding just that, a dry brush. And the color I'm using is Sybarite Green. So get some paint on your brush and remove most of it on a tissue. And then just flicker it across the skull. It will catch the most raised areas. Like so. For our final dry brush, I'm going in with this dry paint called Hexos Palesun. So just as before, get some on your brush and wipe most of it off on your tissue. And flicker it across the skull. Next up, it's time to paint the skin, and then we can finally crack open some contrast paint. And the one I'm going for is Akhelian Green. And this I will apply all over the skin. And let it dry fully before we continue. Next I'm going in with a layer of Alaitoc Blue, which I've thinned down with water. And this I'm painting all over except the recesses, because the contrast paint has already both base coated and shaded the model for us. And this is perhaps the most time consuming part of this video, but it's worth it. It will really make those muscles stand out. With all that layering complete, I'm then adding a highlight in the form of a Drybrush, and the one I'm using is Pallid Witch Flesh. It's a very light Drybrush, mind you. Just all over the skin. Very lightly and gently. And following this, I'm going in with some grey Seer and cleaning up the remaining areas, so we are ready for our next contrast paint. With both the skull and the skin fully complete, we can then move on to, well, everything else almost. Now it's time to paint all the remaining details in purple, except this little crystal on the center of his chest. And the color I'm using is a contrast paint called Shyish Purple. So yeah, just apply this all over the remaining details, except this crystal. And let it dry fully so we can add some layers and highlights afterwards. The contrast paint has given us a really nice base coat and shading, so now it's time to add a layer, and the one I'm using is Xereus Purple? Xereus Purple? Alright, you could dry brush this on if you wanted to, but you should be really careful when you get near the skull and the skin, so I'm going to add this as a proper layer. I've added it to my palette and thinned it down with water. And what I'm painting is everything except the recesses and crevices. Following that, it's time to add an edge highlighter. I'm using some Genestealer Purple for this. And then I'm just going around and painting all the most extreme raised areas. And when you are applying a highlight, whenever possible, use the side of your brush for much better control, such as right here for example. So just take your time with this, go around the model, add this highlight, and it will really make the color pop. With that highlight, the model is almost complete. All that's left to do is the base and this little crystal on his chest. And I'm painting the crystal right now, and for that I'm using a contrast paint called Flesh Terror's Red. And with a small brush, just pick out the crystal. Like so. Following that, I've grabbed a tiny amount of Squig Orange and thinned it down with water. And this is to add a little layer just on the top of the crystal. So it looks like it's reflecting light. Like so. Next up is the base, and for that I'm using a contrast paint, Basilicanum Grey. Just apply this all over these rocks and stones or whatever they are. And of course be careful when you get near the model itself. With the contrast paint dry, I'm then adding a Drybrush with Longbeard Grey. Just remember to remove most of the paint on a tissue, and then just flicker it over the stones. It will catch the raised areas and make a really nice definition and contrast to the shadows. The base has this marker in front, which is used in the game, I believe, and this I'm picking out with white scar straight from the pot. Following that, I'm grabbing some Abaddon Black, also straight from the pot, and painting the rim of the base to really make the base and, well, the entire model pop. And once you're done with this and the paint is dry, the model is complete. Now, if you plan to play with this miniature, I recommend that you add a varnish. A matte varnish is what I prefer, but you do you. And that's all she wrote. I hope you found this tutorial useful. If you want me to continue painting He-Man figures, please let me know in the comments, otherwise I'll probably find some other projects. But yeah, I hope you found this as useful as I said, and if you're painting this yourself, please share it with me on Instagram. I would love to see your work. And with that, thank you for watching and happy painting.